All right, well, welcome to Shop Talk. As you'll see, this is a little bit different setting than we're sometimes used to. We've got a live audience out here, and we're really excited to do something a little bit different, a little bit special. Elliott and I are at the Equip Conference at Texada, and so we're going to film a Shop Talk live, and we're going to have live interaction from the audience who's going to influence the conversation today. Hopefully it's fun. Hopefully it's not a train wreck, but either way, you'll get to enjoy it. So we'll be taking those questions live. We'll be having a regular conversation, but we are going to do full introductions today for the benefit of the audience. And so from there, Kale, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah. John, Elliott, thanks for having me here. Texada. So my name is Kayle Turpin. I work with Robertson Rental. We are a rental house located in Ottawa, Ontario. We currently have 4 locations serving the Ottawa area. We focus on light to mid-sized construction equipment. We've been around since 1992. Personally, I've been there going on 14 years now. Started during my first year at college. Went to school for business marketing and started out in the wash bay, then went into warehouse work and light deliveries. And then from there, once I gained that experience, I hopped on the counter to better serve customers. From that point, I had various management roles, and right now I'm the operations manager for Robertson Rental. So,
congratulations! That sounds like a good career.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, we're excited to have you.
Yeah,
Elliott?
Elliott Vigil, been in the industry for over 25 years. Worked with United Rentals and Ahern Equipment. Had the pleasure of working in Colorado and Las Vegas. And I get the wonderful opportunity now that I own my own business, and I get to travel all over North America working with amazing rental companies and helping them develop their sales teams and build a more successful sales culture.
Very cool, very cool. And I do have a question quickly from the audience. How good would you look in a cowboy hat?
I would look extremely good, especially when I have my jacket on.
I feel like that's true.
It's a big one, yeah.
I feel like that's true. Awesome. Well, I am Josh Nickell. My grandfather was in equipment rental. My dad was in equipment rental. I swore I was not going to be in equipment rental. Here we are. It turns out it's a pretty good place to be. I owned my own equipment rental company for a number of years. We were acquired by Sunbelt Rentals in 2018. I spent a few years overseas working in a rental software company, then moved back and worked for the association. Had been a volunteer for the association for most of my life and had the opportunity to be on staff for a few years there, and now I'm the CEO at Northside Tool Rental in Atlanta, Georgia.
When did that happen?
Monday. Monday. So it's a little bit, I feel like the first day of school right now.
So it's the second day that you've been part of this company and you're not at the company.
You don't have to point that out.
Okay.
But yes, I did spend a couple hours in the office on Monday morning, and then I was like, sorry guys, gotta go.
If you want to be an absentee leader, that's up to you.
Oh, come on. Well, no. It's fair. It's fair. It's fair. So, over the last couple episodes, we've talked a lot about how rental has been on fire for a number of years, and it's starting to slow down. John Durante called it the election effect, high interest rates, uncertainty. All of that has caused things to be a little bit different than normal. And for a period of time there, all you did was grow. It was how much equipment can I buy and how fast can I grow, right? And now I'm not sure that's the right decision as much. And Kale, one of the things that you brought up in our conversation earlier was growing versus optimizing and trying to figure out where you were in that kind of process and what you wanted to focus on. Where's your head at now?
That's like I was saying, we're in this spot here with Robertson where we're at a bit of an intersection. Do we want to focus on growth or optimization? And it's one of those tricky things because it's like everything in the industry, it's not black and white. There's no right or wrong, or there's no perfect time that decision. And, you just got to establish kind of what's best for you, not necessarily just right now, but moving forward. And, so when
So when you think about growth, for example, on one side of the equation, what are some of the things that you go through to decide is now the time to grow or not grow? Does anything stand out to you?
Yeah, I think staff is a big thing because, and when you're looking at growth, there's a couple options you can take. Are you going to go the acquisition route? Are you going to open up a new, spot, start it fresh with all new staff? So you got to see like the kind of support you have going into that, right? So if you have a solid team and you can kind of spare some of them from, your locations to go there and help that specific new location, then you be in a good spot.
Oh, that's great. So you're actually kind of sharing staff members between multiple branches. Does that help with training maybe?
It does.
Getting the branch going, cost savings too?
It does, yeah. So they transfer their experience and all the stuff that they've learned with our company to help kind of grow that and, just make that transition a lot easier. Yeah.
What do you think about Elliott?
I actually think you're wrong.
Oh, I love it. Bring it.
So I think that it's funny to me because I think people have terrible memories. I realized that when the vid happened, obviously there was a massive economic impact and it slowed down production. The thing is construction is not the same as production. So we couldn't get F-150 trucks and we couldn't get baby diapers or formula, but construction and infrastructure was massively important. And I think what happened in 2021, 2022, and 2023 wasn't that the industry necessarily exploded or did anything. I think it stayed at a nice constant pace. The problem is the fleet didn't come in to support it. So since you couldn't buy loaders, excavators, skid steers, and all that normal 15 to 20% changeover of your fleet didn't happen. And so you had to make more with less. Utilization became critical. You didn't have the staffing, and then people went on COVID leave and didn't come back. And all of a sudden it made us think that the business was extremely busy, and it was. But the thing is, it's not like all of a sudden things slowed down. It's just that now we have the resources to support it. And I think now there's more fleet. I think there's people coming back to work. And I think now that equilibrium has balanced out, I think that the quality of people that you have is what's going to make the difference going forward. I don't think the industry slowed down at all. I'm seeing some of the clients that I work with all over North America finding record years. I think the biggest thing that's making an impact right now, which is a shift, is the quality of people that we have.
Yeah, that's fair. So one of the things I guess then you might say is the industry wasn't really on fire a couple years ago. It was really a supply issue, and that made it feel like we were a lot busier because we had less fleets, so we had high utilization. Because we had less people, we were super busy. But if we had the fleet, it might have been a very different world.
Yeah, if you worked at a Ford dealership, if we just change it to something that everybody knows, if you worked at a Ford dealership, they were on fire because the second a Ford truck came rolling into the lot, there were 15 people in a row trying to buy it.
Yeah.
Now, those same 15 people are coming to buy a truck now. The difference is you have 30 in the lot. Yeah. The market didn't change. It's still 15 people. It's just that the availability changed. And I think that that's probably one of the biggest impacts that happened from 2023 or 2024 now going into 2025 is that we're actually getting the fleet that we want. If you call up and order it, you're not going to be told, like I was actually called up one day and I tried to get a simple dingo, small little walk behind dingo. And when I called up, Dingo Ditch Witch actually said it is a 36-month waiting list. I was like, whatever the problem is, it's solved in 36 months. Where now if you call up, they're going to tell you 6 to 8 weeks. So that scarcity has kind of gone away. And I think that right now it's a change in the dynamic. I think it's people.
Yeah, that's fair. So what about interest rates? Does that play into your decision of growth versus optimization?
It does, yeah, because, with the interest rates, there's always that concern. You want to be smart with your money, and you don't want to necessarily take that risk, because at the added cost, it could be detrimental, right? So the increased interest rate definitely plays a big factor in it. So then we just got to be a little more wise with the resources we currently have.
That's right.
And like you said, we still have access to everything. It's a lot easier to get it. So I think it gets back to the optimization thing we were talking about, just making the best of what you have and just using it wisely.
There you go.
So one of the things that I'd argue, though, is, yes, I certainly don't want to pay more interest. And that's an additional cost to me, but that's part of running a rental company. I actually think with interest rates higher, especially with uncertainty on top of that, that's a better time to grow. And I'd say that because contractors don't want to buy stuff. Contractors are uncertain.
Yeah.
And if they're uncertain and they're worried about having to pay high interest rates, you think about it, a couple of years ago when you had 0% interest rate, it's like free money.
Yeah,
that's right.
I'm going to go buy my equipment. Now, I couldn't get it, so that was an issue. But I kind of like a little bit of an interest rate in there. I kind of like the fact that a contractor can't get free money because that makes that rent versus buy decision a little bit better. And you can kind of go against the grain and grow when other people are uncomfortable.
That's right. I think, and I'd love to hear your, Kale, the opinion on this, but they've even seen that as of late, and there's a number of things that people are contributing to the factors, that they've actually shown that rental is growing faster than it ever has. It's outpacing equipment sales for the first time. And I would guess some of that's a cultural thing that younger people don't want to necessarily make those commitments. But the same thing is if it's expensive to buy equipment just because of the interest rates, the increased costs of the equipment, the delays in the equipment, rental has become so easy and so streamlined that it's actually a better option than buying for some people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've got a related question here from the audience, and I think this is a little bit directed at you, Kale. They loved your career path, but they're wondering if that's even still an option in the current economy. Can somebody really get started the way that you get started? Is the industry different? A lot of us grew up in the audience here with the, you start in the wash bay and you work your way up. Is that a thing of the past, you think?
I don't think so. I think it all comes down to work ethic. As long as you're working hard and you want to progress with the company, then, the possibility is endless. So, it doesn't really matter where you start as long as you're putting in that effort and you have a clear goal in mind and you want to benefit the company, the higher ups will see that. And they, just like you guys have seen, you see someone working hard, you want to reward that so that it continues.
That's right.
So I don't think it's not a possibility anymore. I think it's still a good option for sure.
So let me throw one out at you. So I saw a recent study and they said that a lot of the younger generation, some of the millennials that are coming in to the workforce, that they are all being told that you don't want to stay with an organization more than 2 to 3 years because you've maximized the amount that you can learn, and it's actually to your benefit. Doesn't matter how good the company is, that it's actually proven it's to your benefit to leave and go to another company for better opportunities. How do you think that's going to affect your workforce going forward?
I don't know. I think it's tough because in this industry specifically, there's so much to learn. Like I said, I've been here for 14 years and you guys have been in the industry a long time, and I'm learning every single day.
That's right.
So you could switch companies and learn different processes or different ways of doing it. But I think just being in the industry, it's so dynamic and engaging that, you'll learn daily. And I think this industry is a little bit different than some of the other,
I agree with you.
industries around.
Keeps it challenging.
Yeah.
And I'd argue that's more of a cultural issue. I think that there are people of a older generation who are leading some companies who feel like, well, this is the way that they've always done it, and so the expectations should be different. I mean, you hear about this every time a new generation moves into that role. They really dislike certain things about the generation that's coming up, and they really say that all these things are bad. But I mean, it's just different. Something different comes with that. And if you're in a leadership role, recruiting people, training people, and building a culture for your company, and you're not meeting them where they're at and saying, these young people want growth prospects, these young people want to learn, they want to see career growth, then you're missing it. At ARA, one of the things that we had done recently was we created more spots or more rungs on the ladder so people could feel more career progression, because it was really important to them. It wasn't, you can't have the mentality of, well, this is the way I did it and I stayed with a company for 20 years and they just don't care and they don't try and they don't work hard.
That's right.
Well, I don't think it's that. I'm sure there are some people like that, but there are people like that in every generation. You've got to meet them where they're at and give them the opportunities they're looking for. And you can be creative to do that. It's not like they're really asking for anything that much different. Everybody wants to be appreciated and validated. And if you start with that and then meet them where they're at, I think there's still just as much opportunity.
Good point. Sure. Great point.
Yeah. That being said, I think we over-idolize the starting in the wash bay and working your way up.
Mm-hmm.
I do. I think it's a great thing. It is a great experience, and you always want some of those people on staff.
Absolutely.
On the same token, like, it's great to have people who have very different backgrounds. You know, something that I think about, for example, is I love hiring people from the food service industry.
Yeah.
Especially leaders from the food service industry. And you'd think, like, why do you want to hire somebody from a McDonald's or a Burger King or Chick-fil-A? You know, some of those maybe are better folks than others. But think about the people that they lead. Think about the business that they do. And think about how hard that is. Our business kind of looks easy compared to those folks. Those leaders are overworked. Not only that, they're used to leading two completely different groups of people. You've got your dishwashers in the back. You've got your chefs and cooks in the back. Those are mechanics and drivers and service techs. It's a very similar personality. It's a very similar mentality. And then you've got your servers up front. Salespeople. So they work horrible hours, nights and weekends. They already deal with similar personalities. There's so much transferable experience from an industry like that I kind of like bringing somebody in from a place like that. And I want a mix. I want a mix of all of those people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that. I like Kale's idea though, because I'm a big proponent of tribal knowledge. Is I think that, you know, it's good. I like that the comparison you made of that you can find a lot of skill sets from different industries. You know, I think the hotel industry, hospitality is a big one. Restaurants are a big one. I love competitive athletes. You know, somebody who has to get up every day and they understand they got to be self-disciplined. This industry, many of us work alone, even though we're part of a team. Our drivers are by ourselves. Our field service techs are all by themselves. Our sales reps are by themselves. And when you spend that amount of time by yourself, you want somebody who's got that self-discipline. What do you find as somebody that's successful that you've hired?
I've noticed kind of like you suggested there in the service industry, in the restaurant business, because just like you said, they're very customer focused, satisfaction, and it's just as dynamic. You know, needs change instantly. You know, priorities change, and it's all about just having different staff management skills. You know, like there's different departments within it. You know, just kind of reiterating what you said, and I have personally had a success bringing people in from that industry, because teaching the equipment, teaching all the process, you can do that, but you can't teach interpersonal.
That's the right answer.
So it's about finding someone who's good with people, and then the rest is easy.
That's right. Yeah. That's a great analogy.
Yeah. So follow-up question. Do you think it's hard to lead people when you don't understand their jobs because you've never had to do it?
Not really. Like in sports, some of the best coaches never played hockey, right? So same kind of thing. You can understand what has to be done without being, you know, actually doing it. So, yeah, I think it's just a matter of having a clear understanding of the goal and understanding people, you know, because sometimes you might be good at guiding or directing, but not actually physically doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But
100% agree. 100% agree. And I think you said something earlier today that I think is useful to bring up here. You had IQ, intelligence quotient, EQ, emotional quotient, TQ, technology quotient, and then AQ,
acquired knowledge.
And so what I would say is it helpful to have had that experience? Absolutely. It is coming up through those ranks and having that kind of industry experience and knowledge helpful? Yeah. You can also develop bad habits in doing that too, or not think about how other industries solve things. One of the things that I think is a really cool case study on that is General Electric. I don't know how much you guys know about General Electric, but one of the things that they would say that they're best at, and you look at General Electric and they're in all these industries, well, what are they actually best at? Middle managers. They are incredible at developing management. And one of the things that they make managers do to make amazing managers is they take them out of their country or the department that they're in and put them somewhere completely different. Right. And so that's like, you know, if you're the CFO, now you have to go be the chief marketing officer somewhere else. Like, you don't have the ability. And one of my favorite stories from a friend of mine who was actually in a restaurant, he was a chef, and he was trying to lead a team for the first time, and he was really struggling to lead the team. And he'd come over and he'd like chop the carrots or cut up or make whatever that they were doing when somebody else was struggling. And his boss called him in one day and said, you know, you're really struggling to lead the team. And he's like, well, they need help, and I need to show them how to do it and all that kind of stuff. And he said, okay. Sets a bag of lemons on the counter in front of him, and he's like, okay. And he takes 2 of the lemons out and he puts them in his hands. And so he's holding 2 lemons. And he's like, okay, what do you want me to do now? And he said, for the next week, you always have lemons in your hand. You can't touch anything. You can only coach. You can only lead. You can only mentor. You can't physically do anything yourself because you're holding lemons. And you're holding lemons for the next week. And I think that's a lot of what you have to be able to do. And I think the best leaders over time in your company are the leaders who don't have to have the experience. Does the experience hurt? No. Does putting your people out there and having a manager wash equipment once a year or something like that, I think that's awesome. And you can do that. There are ways to do that kind of thing. But is it a requirement? No, it's just an AQ. It is just a tool in the tool belt, and you can have a lot of other tools.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I find there's a lot of times management struggles with that, you know, because they know they could do it well and they just want to get it done, or they're trying to help. But if you are not letting your staff fail or
there it is,
not going to develop, right? So I think it's always good intentions to be hands-on and help them.
That's right.
It's not necessarily the best thing for that staff, right?
And I think you build a lot of camaraderie when you have sympathy and empathy.
Yep.
Like, like I've been there, and even if you're not driving the truck every day, I think you need to go out and spend a day with a driver. I think you need to spend a day with a service tech so that you have that sympathy and empathy of you understand the daily challenges. Mm-hmm. People need to know that you understand what they go through every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it shows you care as well. They feel heard, and, you know, they know that their interests are your interests.